I'm working from the photograph which I took at a local lake on the 7x10 Bockingford pad. Firstly, start off by plotting in the position of your duckling. This is a fairly important part of the drawing because you want to get it in the right position on the paper. So get it nice and central and start faintly sketching it in. Use photographs like this, it's a wonderful way to work. As you progress you can start working outdoors, but this way you've got the thing in front of you. Now, once you've plotted in, you start working up the detail. Use the rubber if you have to change the position of something. And here I work on the eye. Whenever you do animals, get the eye right first, it brings it alive. It almost means you have a conversation with the animal as you're drawing it. It's quite a amazing feeling. Look at that. Suddenly that little duckling has been given life. His little eye. Constantly adjust to get it right. Hold the rubber very, very lightly. Can you see as I draw? As you work in more detail, you tend to hold the pencil further to the front to get more control over it. Work up the subtle little details. As I said, start with the face and get that right. You've got the rest of the body plotted in, you know your proportions are right, you're happy with that. And slowly start to draw him in. Go back and bring the eye up. Keep the eye bright as a button. Round comes the beak. Change your position, rub out where you have to. Create a nice, subtle, soft little drawing. Once again, shading is a matter of tiny line work, constant line work. Each time I put a line down, I actually lift it to the next one. You don't scrub with a pen or the pencil. Take off my construction lines. Start building up his fluffy back. And plot in where you're going to have your areas of colour. It's a yellow spot on his bum up there. There's his wing. This is coming around to his breast in the water. Lightly build up your shading as you go. Now draw in the ripples in the water. He's creating his bow wave as he goes through the water. And don't forget you've got his reflection in the water. Once again, as I've said earlier, mirror image. Get it right, get it accurate. The water goes behind. You're going to, once again, run this off into the paper so it doesn't go right to the edge. So you get a nice white paper surround where the picture fades away at the edges. Looks nice when it's mounted up and framed. Very effective way of producing a picture that. Can you see the fine cross hatching I've been using, which is delicately done to simulate the fluff, the down on the little duckling. You can also see the lovely texture of that paper in this shot. Quite a nice rough finish. little heel down there, elbow I suppose, and his wing. And darker patches coming down to the water. Put your shading the way the feather, the fur, or the down runs, so it's plausible. Always be very conscious whenever you do animals or birds that they run in a certain direction, so your shading should follow the same way. Then you go back over and start building up where it needs it. Get a nice, even, delicate drawing. There we have our little duckling. Mark in some more of the reflection. Then go back again where you think you need it and bring in some extra drawing. So it's effectively a standalone drawing. You're going to put watercolour on it, but it's worth having a nice drawing as a foundation for your watercolour. Right, you've got your duckling drawn. Now we're going to colour him. Let's look at the photo. You can see he's basically brown with these highlighted areas of pale yellow. So first thing is you have a test sheet of paper to get your colour right. And you mix up a yellow. I'm using yellow ochre and cadmium yellow to get a nice shade of yellow using the mixing brush. Drop some more water in, nice clean palette you notice. Test it on your test sheet to make sure you've got the right tone and the right consistency. You're building up very, very thin layers, glazes of colour on there. You mustn't, whatever you do with watercolour, go too intense and too opaque too quickly. You'll spoil your picture. It'll become muddy. So work in the patches of yellow first. Delicate washes using the fine brush. Run some yellow down into the water where the reflection is. Keep moving, keep it nice and even. Clean your palette with toilet paper. Extra water in there with a clean brush and a clean water pot. With your mixing brush then you make up the brown. So that's burnt sienna and burnt umber. Once again, just a quick check. And then with the fine brush, start working it in over the areas that are going to be brown. And take it to the end so the tiny little brush strokes look like down. Very thin glaze. Can't stress that strongly enough. You've got to be very delicate. Give him a nice thin wash of colour. There's your brown all over him. He starts taking shape. Top of his head. There goes. Round his eye, most important. Clean your palette. Right. Cobalt blue. Start washing in, delicate wash, where the blue is on your water. There's only streaks of it because it's reflecting the skylight. Most of it's fairly green water, so you want some blue to lift the water. Whilst that's drying, clean palette, viridian, cadmium yellow, a bit of burnt sienna just to take the vivid brightness off the colour, so you tone it down a bit. There you go. And then work that into the water round the duckling. When you bring it to the edges, be careful how you do it. You want the picture just to literally fade away into the white of the paper. Go right the way around him. delicate wash. Hold your brush comfortably. Don't force it. Let it flow over the paper. Clean palette again. Ultramarine. Bit of alizarin crimson. You get a purplish colour. Then burnt umber. It's giving you a nice dark brown. And with that you're going to go along his beak and pick up the detail around his eye and start to bring up the next layer to bring up his colour. Once again, don't over intensify it, don't let it go muddy on you, and just build up your browns. Nice dark warm brown. Next we want some dark green, Viridian ultramarine with a bit of burnt umber. With that you're going to start applying a second layer onto the water to start bringing up those ripples in the water. Here we go, round him we go. Gently does it. Once again, a glaze of colour. Don't overdo it. You're better off with a pale picture than something that's muddy and dark. Around his back. There he is. Clean it up again, and this time you're going to make more dark brown. Alizarin crimson, burnt umber, ultramarine. And start bringing up his feathers, his down, even more. Little spikes on his head there. It is very, very delicate little brush strokes to simulate the down. And around his bum there, little fluffy bum. Coming on nicely. But take your time. You're not running a marathon. You're doing this for pleasure. So you take your time. There we go. Sap green, yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Bit of extra water into it. Thin it down a bit. Bit of yellow ochre into that. With that you're going to start bringing up that green a bit. It's a bit too pale. So run some extra colour into that. You see, you're building up your colour, but you're not muddying the picture. Nice delicate washes around him. Still see the blue shining through. Bit more brown. Then we go on to our blue. Add alizarin crimson, that's ultramarine, alizarin crimson. And you made a purple. A touch of burnt umber in there, which will just bring the purple down a bit. Not too much. There we go. Adjust it. Use your test sheet to get it exactly as you want it. This is the bit where you put purple onto a picture and you apply the shadow. You'll find this is quite magical. And wash this round where the shadow runs on him. Around his front, into the water, as a glaze over the green and over his brown down and yellow. That will slowly build up to giving you a nice shadow. Using purple glazes like that is a magical way of putting in shadow, and it's the one trick that really brings a painting up. Always remember that landscapes, anything you do, wash your colours in and then work purple over it. Right, now you're taking basically purple and adding burnt umber to it to make a very, very dark browny black. Check your colour on your test sheet just to make sure you're happy with it. It's easier to remix it on there, then have to start your painting again because you've got the wrong colour down. And then you start working in the fine detail. Can you see you've brought this thing up in layers and intensity? Sorry about my head appearing there. I'll try and keep it out of the way. There we go. Very fine brush. Little brush strokes. Layer and layer. You can see the layers of colour below through to the ones above. It's a very effective way of working. So there you have your little watercolour duckling. Now the next stage, which you can or may not want to do, but I always like doing, is once you finish the watercolour with the washes, is then to mix up some gouache. Here I am mixing white gouache, little pan, and with the white, working in fine white detail over the water there. Can you see? It brings the ripples in. I love the effect I get with gouache, and I always use it. Some experts and purists say you shouldn't do it, but hell, I don't listen to them. Just do what you want to do to get the effect you want. And at the end of the day, if it pleases you, that's what it's all about. There it is. One of the things when you do your own work, you've got to be your own worst critic. So when you do something, stand back and look at it. Think, is it good? Am I satisfied with that? Look for what's wrong with it. Next time around you put it right. Okay, some nice egg yolk orange, which is a bit of cadmium red and cadmium yellow. Water that down and work over his breast again, because I've decided, looking at it, that that was a bit too pale. So you want to bring some bit more colour into it, a bit more red into it, just to bring up that real golden orange egg yolk colour. There it goes. Little streaks on his bum there, on that patch of yellow on his bum and down his wing. And some into the water. Orange, don't forget orange warms up your picture terrifically. Produce a very nice subtle effect. Work it all over till you're happy. Adjust it finely so you can get a bit of subtle variation into it. Above his eye there. Give him a nice feel of almost the three-dimensional quality. The final thing you're going to do is you're going to sign your picture. And when you sign it, write your name clearly on it. So there's no doubt as to who created the piece of art. Don't scrawl or just put an initial. People like to know who did it. And there it is, the little duckling.